Well, I think China's made it pretty clear for several months now that they've changed course on this. You might argue that they were reasonably restrained last year after the large marches, but not anymore. We've seen a number of initiatives which you've talked about, the Anthem Bill, the National Security Bill, overriding Hong Kong's own legislature. So we're going to get a lot more one country and much less two systems. And I think that's going to be very tough in Hong Kong for China's critics and opponents.
What do you make of the rhetoric that's coming through here locally? The first time that I've seen a webinar that the Hong Kong Macau Affairs Office has been a much more vocal in recent weeks, speaking up about this, and Chief Executive Carrie Lam also participating in this. Has the tone changed at all here locally in Hong Kong?
I don't think it's changed markedly. You can say webinars like this are an attempt at persuasion or just an attempt to remind people what's coming on down the line. I think it's going to be, once the national security legislation comes in, that will have to be implemented. Succession, foreign interference and the like. These sorts of offences can be and often are interpreted very widely in China itself. They will be interpreted very widely in Hong Kong. They could capture, literally tens, hundreds of thousands of people. Obviously, it'll be more targeted than that. But we are seeing the start of the crackdown, and the webinar, I don't think, changes that, even if the tone is a little more emollient.
We've heard from some big companies like HSBC, Standard Chartered, Li Ka-shing. We've heard from Henderson Land, Sun Hung Kai Properties, as well as Jardine Matheson, all of them coming out in support of the national security law, maybe at the prompting of a former Chief Executive C.Y. Leung, calling on these big companies to basically state their political stance. Is this unusual that we're seeing this take place by these corporate companies?
Well, it's not unusual in Chinese terms. It's pretty unusual for Hong Kong, and it's pretty interesting. It's basically Beijing saying you're either with us or you're against us. Not only do you have to say that in private, we want to see a public statement. So it's very difficult for these companies, which have huge business interests in Hong Kong and, of course, in China itself, to stay on the sidelines because they're going to be punished if they are. It wasn't only C.Y. Leung talking about HSBC, for example, one of the companies you mentioned. It's also some of the sort of chief ideologues in China itself, people who have a very high profile, a Peking University law professor, reminding HSBC that it's basically on borrowed time, or it has to live down its colonial sort of antecedents and reputation. So those companies are getting squeezed, and you can see it.